My name is Frank Aswani. I'm the CEO at AVPA. We're a network of social investors across Africa. I'm Kenyan living in Johannesburg. I have 3 kids. I'm a veterinary doctor by training, and I work in the social impact or impact investing space. On a normal day, we spend a lot of our time helping social investors in Africa mobilize money to invest in social investments, where they're looking to generate profits, but also create social impact as well. So in essence, how can they profitably create jobs, improve food security, increase access to education and healthcare, address climate change issues. So all those social challenges are being put at the forefront of how our investors work. So this is not traditional philanthropy charity. This is more around how do you deliver both financial returns and social returns. I think in every country, the version of me that exists is one of inquisitiveness. I'm very curious to find out unique things about the places I go to. Depending on where I am, cultural things. I really also am appreciative of just, and once again, depending on where I am at things like architecture in Europe, especially. There's really interesting architecture in Middle East, depending on where you go. In the global South, so Latin America, Asia, Africa, culture is very interesting, looking at just the different ways in how we approach life, how we interpret life. And you realize, for example, in Africa, we're a lot more similar than we are different. So the process, for example, of marrying, that whole mahari or lobola, they call it in South Africa, negotiation, is very similar across the continent. I also try and look at what are the parallels that you see in life. And for example, there's a very strong parallel between African Americans and communities and Black South Africans based on this, the history of civil rights movement and fighting for their freedom and rights. You'll see the prominence and value of arts like music, theater in speaking out as a channel of voicing for their rights between the two. But also you see the sad bit of families that have probably had to exist without fathers being present. And the impact on that on kids, how kids grow up, so on and so forth. But this whole civil rights movement, such good parallels between African Americans and the apartheid struggle in South Africa. So it's really interesting to look at that. Look at the history of, you go to South America and you look at the culture and how African slaves have influenced everything from the culinary patterns in Colombia or in Brazil to their music, for example. You can see so much transferable footprints and DNA of Africans in those areas. So I think one of the things I've learned is that if you go in with an open mind and take the places you go to for what they are and what you think they should be, you will live with a lot more richness in your experience than you'd have imagined. So I also try and, whenever I can, try and leave a country with a bit more information about their music. Once again, just in line with my music. The culinary experience is something I try and do. So how's the food there? I had a really cool experience in Colombia attending a cooking class and just seeing, how they make some of their foods and stuff like that. So those kind of things I try and really experience as much as I can. I really like dancing to Lingala music, by the way. Yes. I love Rhumba music. Yeah. So if you find me dancing, please don't quote me. I grew up in a house where Rhumba music was big. So in fact, my name Frank comes from two sources. One, the priest who married my parents was a Spaniard, and Franco was his first name was Franco. But also, I grew up in a house where Franco was big. So those factors kind of influenced my taste in music. And I have a very broad taste in music. I listen to everything from smooth jazz. So I'm very schizophrenic like that. You can find me, I'll fit into any music crowd, basically. Put me in an old school crowd, I'll be good. Zouk, Kizomba, I'm good. But when you find me loosening up, I won't be stiff like people would expect to see. Not one bit. My father died when he was too young. My father died at 54. And I never got a chance to really experience my dad. So if I had a wish, would be to dance with my dad. Just spend some quality time with him, have a drink with him, seek his advice and counsel when I'm feeling a bit stuck. So my father was very big on education. Every end of term without fail, the five of us had to bring our report forms to the living room and wait for him before he came from work. And he'd come into the living room with a cigarette in his hand and look at our report forms and look at you and say, well done, wewe songa upande huu. Look at the next guy, look at him and say, wewe songa upande huu. Then the guys on this side, namba mwende nje mje na mrudi na kitu ingine. Na viboko, I don't want people thinking I was molested. But yes, but you had to come back with a kiboko to be whipped. So education, he was uncompromising about education in many ways. I think he'd be very proud of the fact that his boys have stood up, are able to take care of themselves, are independent men, and are also responsible men. I think that he'd be very proud of. He'd be very proud of the fact that a lot of the discipline he instilled in us still exists. He'd also, I think, be very proud of the humility from my mother that rubbed off on us. My mother was the most humble person, very caring, very nurturing in many ways. And in each one of us, you can see her DNA running through us. So I think he'd be happy he chose my mom as a partner. And that even, because after he died, she stayed on for I think 20 years before she died. And she did a good job in raising those boys to be who they are today. To be a lot more expressive. My father was a soldier. And for many years, he spoke at us, not with us, you know what I mean? So I think just to be a lot more expressive, show a lot more vulnerability, especially as we got older. I think those are the two things about fatherhood that I would probably teach you. I think I'm doing my best. I think yes. And in parenting, you learn based on a couple of things. One, the environment in which your kids are growing up, but also the experience you went through as a recipient of parenting, learning from both the good and the bad. So I think there's certain things that I've carried through from my father, like just the focus on education, the discipline for hard work, the commitment to self-improvement, the freedom to also just be a young person growing up. My father was very supportive of our ability just growing up to be kids. He always brought us footballs to continue to play soccer in small fields in Mtani there. So I think supporting young people to continue to be who they are as young people so they can grow at the right pace and at their own pace is important. So there's certain things I think I'm very much carried on what my father would do. My kids know I'm uncompromising about their performance in school and the ability to perform. I think I've become a lot more flexible around like the career choices. Like I was mentioning before, I think it would have been very different if my child was having the conversation with my dad about becoming a writer, I'm very flexible on that now, having learned. I think kids of today, because of the spaces in which they grow in, don't necessarily need you to be their friend. They still need you to be the adult in the relationship. But you need to be able to listen to them a lot more. They face very different challenges and noises from the environment than we did. So those are some of the things I kind of doing differently or doing the same to what I learned from my parents. You grow up not thinking you'll ever lose your parents. You can't imagine life without them. And that when they leave completely. But I think they watch over us even in their absence. You're always fearing that, what happens if my parents are not here. But I think they keep an eye on us even when they're not here. Yeah. So I always a fear of like, what's going to happen when, especially as a firstborn, what's going to happen when I'm alone and I have to take care of, everyone else. But, you kind of feel that there's a safe space for you to still feel that you've got people around you, even if they're not physically here. And that's super. So even our loved ones as they depart, I believe they don't really leave our spaces. I think they are there and we can call upon them just in moments of comfort when we need comfort and stuff like that. So I'm a lot less worried about feeling isolated or feeling alone. Because at times when you're alone, even in things like these leadership roles that we're in at the moment can be very lonely. Leadership is a very lonely space to be. In many times you're having to make decisions on your own. You're having to make decisions against the grain. You're having to make some tough choices and compromises. But sometimes just that knowing you have things, people, and habits you can reach out to really helps. So sometimes when I feel like I have to do some of those, I have to make a tough decision, I don't force it. I will go to the gym, and in an hour and a half after I've exercised and listened to music in the gym, I come back with a clearer mind, and I'm able to then feel more comfortable to weigh my options at that point in time. Yeah, it does not matter where you come from. In this world, you should never be regretful of where you've come from and feel like you are having a false start or you're starting from. It's an issue of where do you want to go? And you run your own race. It's never about competition with other people. You define your own measures of success and you can get to any place you want to be. So kids who are currently growing up in rural areas or in places where they feel they don't have as much as others should never be worried about that. I think it's more important for you to be determined to go to where you want to go than to wallow in the misery of where you are right now. Your character and who you are as a person. How do people feel around you? How do you make people feel? What do you stand for? What are your values? Because when all is said and done, that's what remains of you as a human being. It's your character, it's your personality, it's the impact you have on people, the impact you have on society, the impact you have on community, which are not necessarily dependent on you being a CEO, you being a dad. Is the decisions you make, the personality that you are, how you interact with people, how you interact with the community and those around you, the legacy you want to build, and those are not necessarily tied to titles. So ultimately, you could have a very high title, but people could think very lowly of you because you're just a nasty person. Okay, yeah, you could have a very high title, but actually there's no legacy you've built that people will remember you about once your title goes.
Yes.
When you peel the layers, what's left underneath? What do people feel about you? What does society feel about you? What footprints do you leave behind? And it comes back to the quote I said before. On your deathbed, would it matter that you were born and raised on this continent as an African? I think it's one of optimism, resilience. That would kind of capture my early life, especially after based on kind of where I grew up and after I lost my father. Because even when I was growing up, going to Lenana school, it was a bit of pressure. I go to Lenana school. My parents didn't have a car, and a lot of kids in Lenana school came from very prominent families in those days. So you grew up with a bit of peer pressure. So you've got to remain optimistic. You've got to remain confident. I think confidence is a very important thing in your beliefs, in your journey, in your destiny. So I think optimism, resilience, passion. I'm very passionate about this continent. Something I really want to strive to make better for my kids and their friends. And then balance. I've really tried to live my life with excellence on both sides. So between my work life and my social life. So I want to be as good a dad as I possibly could be. I want to make sure my kids get the best of me. I also want to make sure I fulfill my passions. So whether it's my passion for music, do I really live through enjoying what I do around collecting music and sharing my music taste with various people. I've got quite a number of friends who are DJs. So whenever I'm in Nairobi, I attend their events. But also it's an important space for me to be in occasionally. My passion for reading, I read a fair amount of stuff. My passion for Liverpool. So I try and go to Anfield at least once every 3 to 4 years to watch a game, if I can help it. My passion for rugby, I make sure I attend at least 1 or 2 sevens festivals in a year, also to watch Kenya play. So those kind of things. So it's passion for the things that you enjoy doing are important. And then also being a student of life. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is you have to be ready to learn, relearn, and unlearn all the time. What is relevant today will not be relevant tomorrow. So your ability to be adaptable and shift what you know now to what you need to know tomorrow is super important. So that way you remain relevant to the world, especially when you're still working. So how do you do that? And you've got to be ready to let go of certain things and learn new things. So those kind of things I think are very important as part of how I live my life. I'm not perfect, and I know that. There's definitely a lot of things I still need to work on and do. But be honest with yourself around what you're really good at and what you're not. And what you're not, how do you lean on other people, whether it's at work or in your personal life? Leverage the strengths that people around you carry to make both your life and their lives better, because it's in that exchange of value and exchange of competencies and skills that we can deliver more, do more together than anyone on their own. So that admission is super important. And then just make sure that you invest in your relationships as well. It's very important that you set time for the relationships that matter to you. It's not always easy, and it's a striking a balance. And I think that's one of the most difficult things being a CEO, is sometimes you can really get sucked up in your work, that your personal relationships suffer, and you need to be deliberate about making time for those ones, because the responsibilities you have being a CEO, being a head of a family, can be a bit taxing, and sometimes your relationships can struggle. And those, I have made some mistakes in that space. So now I'm trying to be a lot more deliberate about it. So nowadays, if I think about you, and you're part of my kind of community, I will at least send you a text message to check on you. Yeah. I will not wait and hope to do this tomorrow.
When you have time,
I'll do it today. Yes. Always ask myself, am I doing my best as a dad? I worry whether I'm giving my best shot in what is my most important role, raising my kids. I have a lot of hope that I'm probably doing this to give the world responsible young people, who will add to the greater good of people and planet going forward, who will be responsible citizens wherever they choose to live, who will be good members of society. And I keep worrying if I'm getting it right 100%, and if I'm setting them up for success. Yeah. So that's the one thing that mars over my head all the time, more so than anything else, because that my role as a dad is my most important role. There's a lot of stuff I could do better for my kids, and I keep striving to do that a lot more. It's also a very tricky time now because they are getting into adulthood. They're actually adults now. And it's about trying to find time and space to spend quality time with them, to hear them, understand where they're coming from, understand their struggles, understand their dreams, and see where you can best play a role to make their reality happen. So it's a balancing act. Sleeping a bit late on a Saturday, because that's the only day I can sleep in properly. Be in the gym at 9. My son always comes to the gym with me. My daughter doesn't. So have brunch with my son at about 11. Take a nap. Wake up, watch a Liverpool game. Watch the All Blacks in the evening. The Liverpool game could be either a Liverpool game or an All Blacks game in the afternoon. Be in a jazz concert in the evening. That would be a perfect Saturday for me. And then Sunday would be, maybe wake up maybe around 10, 11, have a late breakfast, do a barbecue for the family in the afternoon, speak to my brothers between 2 and 4, and then settle in and start preparing for work in the evening. So funny enough, I'm not that good at going to church. I'm guilty. My kids actually are very good at going to church. My son even runs a youth Bible study group. So my kids are very good with church. Actually, the church in Bunyore is Church of God, not even Anglican. So I need to do better. That's one place. My relationship with God is there; it exists, but I don't do enough about going to church. That is an area I have to do a lot better. Actually, you need to meet my cousin Carol.
Carol.
Yes.
Carol who?
Carol Waswa. So Carol is a single mom of 2 boys. I have a lot of time and admiration for Carol, for just how she's worked hard for herself and built a life to support her kids. She's done really well as a single mother. She's really an admirable person in many ways. I have a lot of time for her as an individual. And she's done a great job to raise two kids who are really cool kids, Keenan and Eli. Uh, so my nephews are two solid individuals, and she's done a phenomenal job. And it's just hats off to women who are doing that heavy lifting on their own sometimes, and still balancing successful corporate careers. I have a lot of time for her. She's very supportive of her parents. She's a pillar to her family, not just her kids, but also her siblings and stuff. So you need to meet Carol Waswa. My fears. I have a fear for failing, for not doing enough for the people around me, whether it's my colleagues at work, my siblings, my kids, my family. So I always try and make sure that I'm doing my best for those around me, to help make life comfortable for them, but also to set them up for success. So I always ask myself, am I doing enough? Am I doing the best for those around me? Seeing some of the work that we're trying to do at AVP around just getting Africa to be growing in a different path, getting Africans to believe a lot more in themselves. So not fulfilling that legacy that I kind of think I should be building. I fear that. I fear not learning enough from my mistakes. Okay, not making mistakes, but not learning from them. So I'm very deliberate about making sure that I'm reflective of the things that I do to make sure I do better next time. I fear about stalling as an individual, getting to a place where I'm not growing anymore. So I'm very deliberate about, even in the gym, I still push myself hard. If I did something this week, can I do better next week? So I really do not like just getting to the point where you plateau as an individual. How are you continuously growing, continuously aspiring to be a better version of yourself? So that if I feel like I'm stagnating, I get concerned that I'm not doing well enough for myself and for those around me.